Run home at the Meadows, so it does show you how slow that track was. It was like a rainstorm, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nice and wet. I had to come out with an umbrella to tell you to go upstairs to go and get the rug that he won last week.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. And it was good to win the GOTBA Cup because it represents a great organisation, the Trainers and Owners and Breeders Association. So, I was wrapped. It was a good night.
All right, well, good luck tonight. That is Jeff Gill with Ruben Hill, who's nice and excited to get going. And we'll see how he goes in the second race on the program, boys.
Thanks, Smithy. Jeff Gill there finding the slippery deck as well underfoot. Anyway, let's get on. Race 2, Nathan Rooney, the favourites. Well, a battle for favourite is Paul Frederick and Doongala Don. How have you split them?
Yeah, I thought Doongala Don's going to be well and truly ahead of Paul Frederick in the run to the corner the first time, so that's the way I've lent. 2, 4, 5 and 1, so Doongala Don backing up after a good win at the Meadows last week, even though the time doesn't indicate it. It was a wet track, he was able to dictate from the front. He's got a fast PB here, and I think he'll be able to cross his main market rival convincingly in the run to the first corner and holds the ace from there. For second, number 4, Poor Imperial, coming back in trip and coming back in class. I think that's 2 big ticks for him. He might be able to get on the back of Doongala Don and finish strongly. 5, Flying Dinar into third, a greyhound who knows his way around. Sandown, Honest Campaign. And then for fourth, number 1, Paul Frederick. I'm just not sure he wants box 1. He wants to go around dogs. I can map him in the back half of the field. I can nearly map him last here. And if a couple of the front runners are off and gone, it might be a little bit of a task to pick him up. So I'm happy to be against Paul Frederick. I've only put him in for 4th. 2, 4, 5 and 1, my numbers. Sandown race number 2.
Nathan Rooney with the check. Doongala Don, Sandown Cup night, race 2. Here's Dan.
Race 2. So the favourite now, Doongala Don, into 280. 290 for Paul Frederick. 440 Poor Imperial. So the market flipping around there as we get the runners starting to move in for race number 2. The Fair Park FNC Grade 5, field of 6. Favourite the 2, just ahead of the 1 and the 4. The green light is turned on and the lure on the move. Race number 2, they're set to go. Ready? And away, beginning well was Poor Imperial, and now Doongala Don is hustling through underneath it. Paul Frederick's trying to follow that through, getting squeezed up Ruben Hill along with Doongala Al, who got badly checked there, Doongala Al, and the back was Flying Dinar as well. Doongala Don the leader, 3 lengths in front of Paul Frederick, trying to run it down. They're 3 lengths clear on Poor Imperial and Flying Dinar. Doongala Don the leader, still by 2.5. Paul Frederick's running out of time. Doongala Don clear. Doongala Don, 2 lengths. Paul Frederick, Flying Dinar, Poor Imperial, a long gap to Doongala Al, who had no luck, and neither did Ruben Hill. They are at the rear, and the time is 29 and 41.
Well, that's gone to absolute script. Doongala Don wins and defeats Paul Frederick. And Nath, down the back, you were hoping that Doongala Don was going to keep kicking, and he's ran home in 10.51, which is got a fair bit of muscle about it, so he was no danger of getting caught in the end.
Yeah, the track we've seen in race 1, you know, the leaders kept rolling on top of the speed, and he was able to get to the top, which was no surprise there, and pinch a bit of a gap. Poor Frederick got a good run through the first corner. He was able to hold his ground near the fence and get through the corner and then on the back of Doongala Don. But when you're running 29 and 42 on the arm, it's going to be pretty hard to pick up a dog that you're giving 3 or 4 lengths to in the early stages. So early speed wins races. Doongala Don got the start right, had the right box draw, and a little bit of interference behind. He was able to pinch a good gap and be too strong in the run to the line. Poor Frederick lost no admirers into second. He was quite good. He raced quite well for a greyhound that's not over-possessed with early speed. Small field did play into his hands fractionally there, where he was able to hold a position a little bit closer to the speed than most probably what a lot anticipated. And then Flying Dinar into third, a greyhound who relishes racing around Sandown Park, and Poor Imperial into fourth. So the 2 outside dogs, Ruben Hill and Doongala Al, never really got into the race. They were posted wide and found interference. But full credit to Corey Grenfell with Doongala Don, the winner of race number 2.
They've sort of come out of nowhere, these Doongala dogs, haven't they, in the past few months? What do you make of them generally?
Yeah, there are a couple of litters, and they're both, or both litters are producing really good dogs. They've got a lot of natural speed. and they've been able to get up over 500 and keep showing that speed. And then with racing, they've got stronger and stronger on the back end, as you touched on there. 10.51 home, it's certainly not stopping. And when you can run, 5, 10, 18, 90 up the back, you put yourself into races when you draw closer to the fence. So the only kennel with Corey Grenfell as their trainer have really had a really good run the last couple of months, and Doongala Don certainly franked that run and continued the good run for Connections.
And poor Frederick, I mean, not a lot to take away from him. The winner was just too good in the end.
Yeah, it was. He done everything he could. He began pretty well for him, as we touched on. His first sections, the last few starts have been, mid 520s to 530. So he began well enough for him, and he was able to hold a spot closer to the fence, get through the corner, get on the back of Doongala Don. But he was just spotting the greyhound, too much room in the early stages. I thought he'd be 3 or 4 behind him through the catching pen the first time, and that was the case. And as we touched on, when you're running 29.4, you can't really be spotting greyhounds, 3 lengths and expect to pick them up, because, in all fairness, poor Frederick isn't a 29.2 dog. He's most probably a 29.4 or 5 dog, if you solo trailed him anyway. So just that early speed won the race for Doongala Don. The market gravitated towards him. I know poor Frederick went up favourite this morning, but the money come for Doongala Don, and I think that was purely on a map perspective. They could see Doongala Don get the head start over the main market rival, and that's the way it played out.
Indeed it did. What about box draws? We've seen the first 2 races tonight, one from the check. With these smaller fields that we've got throughout tonight's program, Nate, does that make the importance of drawing well less, given they do have that early room to move?
Maybe. It's all map related though, isn't it? And it's all the dogs that are drawn around you. Obviously, that that most races we're going to see tonight have 2 vacant boxes in 3 and 6. So it's been pretty clean racing. We've seen Ruben Hill in box 7 and Doongala Owl in box 8 there. Found a bit of trouble going through the first corner, but typically with 6 dog fields, you should have pretty clean racing. I think there in that race, for instance, Doongala Don was clearly the map leader for mine, and that was the key. And then in the previous race, the way I mapped it was the greyhound from box 8 was always going to lead, and then it was what was going to be camped on her, which in turn was Capricorn 1. So I think a lot of races tonight, the map's been pretty clear. Sometimes you do a map and you've got 4 leaders, and then it really becomes box draw biased and who hits the lids and who gets a clean run to the corner. But I think the first couple of races, what we've seen is a pretty clear-cut map, and they've run accordingly, and the results have been accordingly, and punters are off to a good start.
That they are. We've seen a footy club out there getting in the photo with Doongala Don as well, and awesome to see, isn't it, Nath? Because in this game, we need new people with eyes on it. We need more people having good fun at the Greyhounds. And tonight, we've got a fair few footy clubs on track. As I mentioned at the start of the broadcast, they'll all be engaged in a kick for cash, I think they're calling it, kicking a sharing into a couple of buckets that are out here on the front straight. So we'll be covering that. Very much looking forward to it. I'm keen to see if Corey Smith can get a sharing in his hands and see what he's like with the slipper. I'm not sure what your predictions would be like about that, Nath, but a gut feel is he'll go okay.
Yeah, I reckon he'll go okay. I reckon he'd be. He's a good size for a footballer. He's trimming down into an athletic build at the moment too. So I don't know how good his hammies are. And I tell you what, you wouldn't want to be kicking from the grass, because that was a bit slippery when Jeff Gill went to take off.